Hi, welcome to Mug with Erin. I'm Erin, of course. This is my mug. Here's my other mug. My mug of the day is a very simple mug. It just says make today count. And that's the kind of day I've been having, just doing little things to make it count. And so we have a new mug over here today. Dawn Bouillion is my guest, and I'm so excited to have her here.
I do
Um,
have a
Dawn
mug.
and I have been friends. Oh, you have a mug.
I have a mug.
Yay.
And it keeps my coffee hot.
Oh, good. Good. Yes, I've microwaved my coffee all morning long. So, but Dawn and I have been friends for over 20 years,
Mm.
and can't believe it. But when we met, we were in the
Getting
throes of
old
we are. We were
here.
in the throes of babies and diapers and just trying to figure life out day by day. And some days we would get together and just go, I just need to have a conversation with another human, like adult human. So now our kids are old enough for us to embarrass them by breathing in public and so, just by being us. But
Mhm.
Dawn, I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so
Um,
excited to be here.
me too. So Dawn is a trauma therapist, coach, and advocate who helps women heal from emotional abuse, religious trauma, and childhood wounds. Through her work at Embrace Your Brave, she empowers women to reconnect with themselves, reclaim their voice, and walk toward healing and freedom. I love all of your bio.
Oh, thank
Before we start, because Dawn is a trauma therapist, I'm just going to do a disclaimer. Today's episode is based on personal experience. It's not offered, I mean, it's offered for informational, encouragement, and healing purposes only. It's not therapy, nor is it intended to accuse, defame, in or group. Our goal today is to create a safe, supportive space for those seeking healing from trauma, anxiety, and emotional pain. So we'll put that out there. However, I would recommend looking Dawn up for therapy because I was a recipient of her pre-professional therapy. And she's a great, great listener. And so, but Dawn, I'm glad you're here. Now that we've gotten all the disclaimer out of the way, we can visit.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Uh, so Dawn, tell us where you live.
I am in Lafayette, Louisiana. This is my office right
Oh,
here. Embrace Your Brave. I guess we've been living here for 4 years now. And I have four daughters. My oldest is 20, and then I have an 18-year-old, 15-year-old, 13-year-old. And I
cool.
would say they are my fiercest motivation, really, for what I do, right? As girls growing up in this world, this is important. This is important work and important things to fight for. So, um, they are, they're definitely my heart, and we've been on this journey together. So, yeah, so that's me. I'm in Lafayette.
Yay. Fun. I know we're hours apart now. We used to live right down the road from each other. And
Right on the yeah.
and some of our kids are the same ages. And so it's really fun to, have play dates and have play dates with, and you're having one too with your
Exactly.
friends.
It was more for us,
Yeah.
but want
You
some
want to
adult fun?
go. Oh, yes, you want to go play with those friends today because I need to see Dawn.
Exactly. Yes, yes.
Oh,
Good times. Those were sweet times.
they were sweet. Well,
Mhm.
Dawn is here as part of my series, Where is Jesus When? And uh, she is here today to share part of her story of when she has felt God's presence through difficult situations. So, Dawn, I'm going to open up and just let you talk.
Okay. Well, yeah, as Erin mentioned, I am uh, a trauma therapist, and kind of my road to becoming that is my story. It's why I do what I do. And I was actually at French camp when I hit my first major crisis that landed me in therapy. You probably remember this, Erin. I had a major marriage crisis that kind of like knocked me flat on my face to that point where, you have a hard time eating, you have a hard time sleeping, you have a hard time brushing your teeth and like functioning. And I had four small children at home at the time. And so it was the crisis was just so much that I had to get help. And so that's when I first experienced therapy. And so I went to therapy twice a week and I drove an hour and a half to get to individual therapy one time and group therapy. Do you remember this, Erin?
Oh yeah.
Looking back,
It was worth the drive.
it was worth the drive. Yeah. So blurry that time in my life. But the therapy that I experienced was so life-changing and transformational because it was finally when I sat on that couch that I mattered to her, right? My pain mattered, my story mattered, my feelings mattered. That was the first time I ever started talking about my story and like what I had gone through as a child. And I had grown up in an alcoholic home. Um, and I had also been a part of a very, very legalistic church environment that was very constricting. And so in therapy, because I mattered to the therapist, I started to matter to me. And as I mattered to me and I started to heal me and reconnect with my emotions and realize that I have needs that matter too, it began to heal me to the point of like dreaming again. And that dream became for me, I want to be able to help other people experience this healing, right? I want other people to experience that feeling of knowing that they matter and their pain matters and their story matters. And so I lost my mind with s'more four small children. I can see how I got there. S'more. And I remember when my therapist, Eva is her name, she looked at me one day and she's like, "Have you ever thought about becoming a counselor?" And I was like, "Oh, like all I could think about was like grad school." And I'm like, "Oh, I can't do that, because one of my lies from growing up is that I'm stupid because school was such a struggle for me. I got my first F in fifth grade and I was just trying to survive at that time in my life, but I thought that meant that I was stupid,
Hmm.
you know? Um, so that was another hurdle that I kind of had to overcome. But I was like, well, I guess I'm going to grad school. And somehow I survived grad school. And it is an absolute miracle when I tell you that I did that. I'm not even kidding. I cried through every paper, every 12-page paper that I had to write at 2 a.m. because
Wow.
that was the only time that I had with me and my brain to myself to like crank out a 12-page paper. And I cried through every one because I kept thinking, well, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to write papers, but I had to do it. And so every day it was literally God's grace that got me through. And I can say I graduated. I
Yay.
got a master's in marriage and family therapy, and I graduated. Um, so now I get to be the person that sits on the other side of the couch to see people and help them see themselves and
Right.
help them know themselves and help them love themselves and help them heal, heal in all the ways. And the quote that I have that I actually came up with while I was in grad school, but has now become what I've built everything on in how I live my life is behind every face is a story to be told, is a voice to be heard, is a soul to be healed, and a dream to be discovered, right? And so I always tell my clients, or my clients know, we're not just healing to heal, baby. We want to dream again. There's a dream in there that matters. And so, but that is kind of it's changed how I live my life. It's changed how I view other people. It's changed how I view myself. Um, and so all that kind of came about while I was in grad school. And now here we are, Erin. We're living our dreams, baby. Erin, Erin
Right.
and I, we were kind of doing some of our healing together, because we were learning things at the same time and learning how to have a voice and all those things. And I remember one of the things you said, Erin, when we were kind of stepping out into those bigger things that we haven't experienced before, is if your dream doesn't make you throw up, it's not big enough.
That's
So
right.
dream bigger, you know? And so it's so cool to like be here with you right now and see your cute little setup with your mug to mug, and like, I'm in my office doing what I've always wanted to do. And we're doing this thing. Like,
Right.
that's cool.
Right.
And so thank you, Erin, because you've been a huge part of that for me at
Oh,
in my life when I really needed support and people to show up and, help me um, come out of that darkness that I was in, and not just come out, but actually learn how to fly, you know?
right. Right. Well, I'm just thankful God crossed our paths.
Hmm.
Camp, Mississippi. Little old French camp.
And I'm sure people know this, Erin, and you probably know this, but there's just something about your presence and like your voice and the way that you just feel safe to me. And
Oh,
like your gentle, caring words and encouragement and all of that. You've always just been a safe place to land for me. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
well, thank you. I love
And you'll
that.
always have a cheerleader in me. Okay. I'm always cheering. Even if I'm in Lafayette, Louisiana, I'm always cheering for Erin. Okay.
Well,
As
everybody
the lead.
needs it.
Huh?
Oh, well, look, I had a question about something you said, if I can
Okay.
interrupt your story.
Yes, sorry, I
So,
get
no,
distracted.
you're fine. So back when you were on the couch,
Yeah.
Eva was your therapist.
Mhm.
You used a phrase, reconnect with your emotions,
Yes.
reconnect with you. Like, talk about that just a little bit. What does that mean?
Okay. So yeah, what happens with trauma and the things that we experience? The essence of trauma is disconnect from yourself, right?
Okay.
Disconnect from your body, disconnect from your feelings, disconnect from your sense of reality. That's what happens when trauma happens. And a lot of people have a misconception of what trauma is because you think it's the big things that happen in life, right? Like you think of war. When you think about PTSD, what do you think about? You think about going to war, or you think about a car accident or a hurricane, you think about something big, life altering. But what is equally as damaging and impactful is not being seen, not being known, not being loved, your needs not being met, right? The impact of that is just as damaging,
Mm,
um, because of the disconnect with yourself. And so the essence of trauma is disconnect from yourself. And so healing is about reconnecting. It's
okay.
about bringing all those things back together. So what I experienced was that deep disconnection from myself, from my emotions, and kind of as what this podcast is more about is even in the midst of that, um, when you started asking me where was Jesus when, um, even in the midst of that, Jesus never left me.
Mm.
A lot of people left me. The people that I depended on, like the people that I thought were with me for me, left me, but Jesus never left me. And, even going through it, I might not have realized it as much, but looking back on it, it's so clear to me. Um, he was with me through all of that and loving me through all of that. And I really think that that has really been a big part of my healing is really realizing those things go together. Receiving the love and care of God go hand in hand with really learning how to love and care for yourself.
Oh, wait, say that again.
Yeah. So I think those things go hand in hand. Receiving the love of God and his care and his healing go hand in hand with us learning how to love and care for ourselves.
Mm.
Those things go together. But if you notice, when I tell you my story, and what's true for a lot of us, is we're missing in our story because we are disconnected from ourselves. So the
Mm.
healing that I think Jesus is talking about when he comes, or why he came, is that healing of reconnecting us to ourselves.
Mm.
They go together. Now, that's not the Jesus that I learned about in the legalistic church that I grew up in. I mean, I remember a time when I was studying to be a therapist, and I was thinking, I'm gonna have to leave Jesus out of this room because these people are broken,
Mm.
because at that time, that was the Jesus that I understood or had been taught about. But in actuality, that's not the heart of Jesus at all. Jesus can't be separate from what I'm doing, right?
Right.
Because Jesus is healing. Jesus is love. Jesus is exactly what we need in that room, right? There's no
Mm.
healing apart from Jesus, and there's no healing apart from ourselves. Those things go together. They're like one and the same. And that was kind of a shift in thinking for me. That was like, oh, that really broke through some of those barriers of receiving God's love for me.
Mm.
Not that I have to perform for his love like I had thought in
Right.
in the past. Um, and so let's see, let me not get off track here. It looks like I'm all over the place on this paper, Erin. Um, but the simple definition that I learned in grad school that was a big part of my healing was, of the gospel is receive God's love and give it away. Period.
Okay.
Receive God's love and give it away. You can't give away something that you're not receiving.
Right. True.
And in much the same way, you can't love other people in a healthy way if you're not loving yourself.
Wow.
That was something that I had to learn. That was a big missing piece in my life because everything that I had learned and kind of been conditioned to think was make me smaller, right?
Right.
Shut me down, cut me off.
Mm.
The less there is of me, the better. And
Mm.
that's really kind of contradictory to healing. Those things have to go together,
Right.
right? And I think that that's a huge shift that happens in therapy is, people land on the couch. And one of the first questions I ask them is, okay, so who are you? And people are like, I have no idea. You know, because
Yeah,
we haven't thought about it. And sometimes our answer is like, well, I don't know, who do you need me to be? And I'll be that.
right.
And who do you need me to be? And I'll be that. And who do you need to be? Because this is how we've learned to live. So we don't even know the answer to that question. And then I'll say, well, tell me, how are you feeling? And, for people like us that we are always thinking about everybody else, we don't know what we're feeling because it hasn't crossed our mind what we're feeling. We're thinking about everybody else, you know? And
Mm.
so really learning how to love me the way Jesus loves me and learning how to care for me in the gentle ways that he cares for me has been a huge part of my healing. And so I want to get to the scripture because it's coming up right now, Aaron, but one of my favorite scriptures has always been Psalm 34:18, which is the Lord is near to the brokenhearted and
Mm.
saves the crushed in spirit. And I've always just taken great comfort in that voice because that means he cares. And when we are at our most broken places, Jesus has something to say about that. And he says he's near and he's close by and he's never far off.
Right.
And I take great comfort in that.
Mm.
He was there the whole time, loving me through it, even when I wasn't loving myself yet. Right? He always has. I've experienced a lot of abandonment in my life, but the one person that never abandoned me is Jesus.
Mm.
And I remember times in my relationship that I would literally have to say, okay, this is what Jesus says about me, and this is what this person says about me, and I have to go with what Jesus says.
Right.
So even at that time, Jesus was the truth of who he is and who he was still what was holding me together. Now it's sad that it comes to that where you have to actually like say, okay, well, this is what this person is saying about you and who you are, but this is what Jesus says, and this is what matters. And then learning to believe this for yourself, right?
Right. Mm.
So I love that scripture. And the other scripture that I love is Isaiah 61:1. He came to bind up the brokenhearted and set the captives free.
Mm.
That's the healing that he's talking about, right? And the captivity for me was so much of the lies that I believed, right? When you grow up in those environments and this is what you learn about yourself, your belief system starts to form. And it sounds something like, I don't matter. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not worth it. Like that becomes our captivity. Like we're believing those lies and they're closing us down and they're shutting us out, you know? Um, and it's like Jesus came to set us free from that by receiving his love for us. And then as we receive that love from him, then we can give it away. But we're an important part of that. We've got to love ourselves too before we can love other people the way that Jesus loves. Right? So
Right.
that's in the scripture. That's what Jesus said, right? But yet it's definitely not what I was taught at the beginning of this journey.
Mm.
But the encouraging thing is that's who Jesus is, right? So I'm talking a lot, Aaron, so you can interrupt me.
No, this is good. You're supposed to be telling your story. It's
Oh, I'm
supposed to
supposed
be
to
you
tell him.
talking.
Okay, good. So I'm doing good.
You're doing good. Yes. You're doing great. Just
Um,
telling truth. I love it.
yeah, and it's changed me. I mean, it's been a huge part of my transformation is, you know, realizing that those things go hand in hand. Jesus is healing. Jesus is love.
Mhm.
That, you know, he's the author of healing. He's the author of love. Like, so he's never apart from that. And he's never apart from us. That's just who he is, you know?
Right.
So no matter what we're going through, he's with us and he's loving us through it. So, okay, I'm off my high horse
I
on that.
love it. Well, I don't have a way to segue into this, but I do want I want you to talk about anxiety because I know you dealt with anxiety,
Yeah.
and I know lots of people that will listen to this will their ears just perked up because I said the word anxiety.
Mhm.
It's just something that's dealt with, and depression, and I know you have some thoughts on what anxiety is and how we can, instead of seeing it as a curse, how we
Mhm.
can have a relationship with anxiety, so to
Yeah.
speak. So if you talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. Good job getting me back on track. So, and this is a huge thing too, right? What do we typically do with anxiety?
Squish it.
Yeah, we act like it's not there. We run away. We're like, da, 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 da. And then what happens? It just gets bigger, it gets louder and it starts demanding more and more. So, but anxiety is just an alarm in our body that's trying to alert us to something that needs attention, right? So anxiety is like a wounded part of us that wants and needs to be seen and known and heard. So if that part of us is like yelling at us and we're just like, no, we don't have time for that right now. I gotta da, 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 you know, and that's what we've learned to do to that little girl. We're just kicking her further down the road, right? When um when we realize that that's a wounded part of us that's just needing some care and love and attention, um and we can shift towards that part of us and actually see and know and love and care for her and let her tell her story, right? Because it's like that part of us is stuck back there. It's living from that space, right? Have you ever felt where at times something just comes over you and you kind of feel like it's happening again in the moment, like whatever this was back here that happened.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels like we're in it right now. And I think that that's because a part of us is in it, right?
Mm,
There
yeah.
is a part of us that's still stuck back there that needs to be rescued and brought back, right? Because if healing is about wholeness, then we have all these wounded parts of us that we had to abandon in order to survive whatever we've been going through that need to be excuse me, they need to be rescued and brought home in here.
Right.
Right? um and so anxiety is a part of that. Depression, right? Depression is from suppressing. And what are we
Okay.
suppressing? Our emotions.
Right.
Because in whatever environment we may have been brought up in, maybe we weren't allowed to have feelings. Maybe that wasn't safe. Maybe that wasn't welcome. And so, as we learn to survive those environments, for many of us, we just shut down our feelings. We just shut all of that down, right? And that's the suppression that can lead to the depression. Um, but once again, these are symptoms that are alarms trying to alert you to something that needs attention. But because of the disconnection that happens during trauma, so because trauma is not the thing that happened. I don't know if I said this already. Trauma is not what happened to you, it's what happened inside of you. So it's not the event that happened. It's the disconnect that happened inside of you.
Okay.
And the hopeful thing about that is you can't change that event, right? But you can absolutely heal what happened inside.
Mm,
And that's
okay.
why there's hope. That's why there's so much hope to heal. And anybody can heal because it's what happened inside of you. And it's the, we kind of get overwhelmed with thinking it's too hard or too complex. But when we realize it's actually more simple than you think, when you realize it's about disconnection that happened. The trauma is the disconnection from our body, from our emotions, right? From our gut, all of those things. And so healing is about bringing all those things back together in harmony with each other. And so, in that sense, healing is simple when you realize you're kind of the person that you need, right? If we abandon that little girl, the person that she needs in order to heal is me.
Wow.
Me to
Yeah.
see her, know her, love her. And I need her too because she's an important part of me. And so it's like you're putting yourself back together to wholeness and loving yourself the way that Jesus loves you and creating that safety and almost learning how to lead yourself instead of, for example, when that anxiety is, going off over here, that anxiety will jump in the driver's seat of your life and be like, "Boom," and jump you right up the cliff, right? Oh man. Is that not true? It's like if no one's driving your bus, then these parts of you will jump in and try to control your life. And so what we're doing with therapy and healing is we're empowering people to drive their own bus. And the parts of us, the anxiety and all of those things, they're important parts that need care and need love, but they need to ride in the back of the car and not drive, right? We don't let kids drive the bus. We need to, that's just
Right.
a silly analogy of like understanding that part of us isn't bad. It just needs care, right? It needs love. It needs to be listened to, needs to be, brought to safety. And at sometimes it needs to be reparented because what it didn't get back there. Or I do something called art therapy, accelerated resolution therapy. Because as we're talking about trauma gets lodged in the body, right? It's not stuck in the past, it's stuck in your body. And so to heal trauma, you need more than just a talk therapy. You need experiential trauma therapy. And so one of the types of therapy I do is called accelerated resolution therapy. And literally what we're doing is exactly what I'm talking about. It's like you when you're in a safe place, you're going back and visiting these parts of you that might have like a memory attached to it that has a lot of pain still attached to it. And you're going back there and you're kind of intervening with that part of you. And the first thing I do when I'm walking people through this is I'm like, let's just go in there and scoop that girl up and hold her, right? And just hug her. Because I mean, that's what she needs, isn't it? To not be alone in that place and to realize like that you're there now. Because when someone's anxious, what do they need? you know, they need that reassurance, they need that comfort. And so it's like just like we would do that for someone else, we need that too.
Right.
Right. And so with this type of it's called art, accelerated resolution therapy. It's like we go back there and we scoop that girl up and we remove her from that threat that's happening. And whatever the lies are that are attached to this, like this is where your lies come in. I don't matter. I'm not important. I'm not worth it.
Mm.
Right? We we you use your creativity, your imagination to get rid of the lies. Like if it's a home situation that was just bad, I'll say let's just light that baby on fire, right? And all the lies and all that'll just go with it. And this is empowering the child that didn't have power back
Mm.
then. She didn't have a voice. She didn't have a choice. She didn't have power. And so we're taking that to her because we have it now. We're giving her what she didn't have then because she still needs it.
Mm.
And so we will get rid of whatever those lies are. And then I'll give them a little paintbrush and we'll paint over it the truth. And
Okay.
so it's like they get to re-script it and they get to kind of reclaim. What do you want to speak over this girl, right? Worthy in all caps,
Mm.
or loved, or beautiful, or wanted, or chosen, you know,
Mm.
anything that is directly um, going against the lies. We're speaking the truth over this and we're letting her claim this. And as we're doing this, we're like reparenting her, right? We're cleaning out that old belief system and putting in a new one. So that when you look back on that, instead of seeing the old thing, you're going to see the new that you created.
Mm.
And then what I typically do is depending on the age of this girl, you know, that I'm dealing with, that I'm thinking about, if she's like a 5-year-old, where should 5-year-olds be? They should not be in a closet scared or wherever she was. And so you scoop her up and you like go take her to go play on a playground and you take her to get ice cream. It's like you're imagining that you're receiving that as a child, what you didn't get back there, but you needed in a carefree in a carefree way that's safe. You're creating that safety for her. And then you're bringing her home. And that's where she gets to stay because she's with you now. And she will never be abandoned again. Right. And as we do that, you start to feel, right? It lessens that anxiety because we don't have that separation anxiety with that part of us anymore because we brought her home. And we do that with multiple parts of us that might need it. Um, and so that's a type of therapy that I have found to be the most effective.
Right.
And I've literally like watched miracles happen every day when I do it. Because when people reconnect with themselves and like they're it's like the relief, and the little tears come down their eyes as they're like they matter. That part of them feels like they matter now and they don't have to stay alone. They don't have to stay scared and abandoned and feel unworthy. And so it's a beautiful thing. Like it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's an amazing thing, but that's why I love trauma work because it doesn't really matter what your story is of what you've been through. The issue is the disconnection that happened with you. And
Mm.
so if we can figure out how to bring you home back to yourself and rescue all those parts of you that might be stuck back there, then we can heal you. It doesn't matter how severe the trauma was, right? The event was that happened because the trauma is actually what happened inside of you. And I find that to be really cool and like really encouraging because healing is accessible to everyone.
Right. That is very helpful.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
um,
Now you have to choose it though, right? And you can't do it for anyone else and no one else can do it for you. only you can do it for you, but also nobody can take it from you
Right.
either, right? It's like taking your life back, taking your power back, realizing like that you matter and you're the one driving this bus, right? Um, it's like for many of us, we didn't know that we had power. So it's like you go throughout life and you just hand it over. Here you go. Here you go. We thought we were
Right.
supposed to do that. And now we're realizing, oh, wait a second. My friend uses the analogy of the pen. She's like, it's like I went through my life and said, here, you can write my story, you know, and
Oh,
everywhere you go, you're like, here, they get to tell you who you are and what you're worth. And, you just hand over your pen. And healing is about taking the pen back.
yeah.
Really, this is my story. Actually, that's not who I am.
Right.
Actually, I get to decide how this story goes and how the ending of this is, right? And so that's just another analogy of what healing is, like taking back the pen, you know?
So when you, I'm guessing like in your story, you've walked through that taking back parts of yourself and
Yeah.
healing. So can you think of specific ways that you can look back and see where Jesus was with you um, during those times? Or if there's anything, I mean, I know you said you know he was with you, but have you
Oh,
had any specific times that where you felt his presence?
mm. I mean, now it's just so everywhere, it's just I know that he's never apart from me. And so any love I feel, any connection I feel with someone or anything like that, I always know that Jesus is the author of
Right.
that. And he's the giver of those gifts. And I don't know that I can think of a specific um a specific thing other than what I've already said, but just looking back, Jesus was never the one that abandoned me.
I love
r-
that. Yeah.
Right? He was never his love for me has never changed. I just didn't understand it, you know. I wasn't really necessarily taught about that kind of love. The love I was taught about was the kind you have to perform for.
Right.
Um and just as I've grown and as I've healed and as I've my journey with the scripture, because that's been a big part of my life. I went to Bible college, you know. Um, I wanted so bad to study that and know that because I wanted so bad to be good and to please God and to, you know, and then it's just kind of been this journey of like, he's already pleased. There's nothing more you can do to please him more or for him to love you more. He just
Right.
because you're just his. And he's always, always cheering for you, always with you, never apart from you. One of the things I did want to say, because we oftentimes don't connect those things, um, is when we are so disconnected from ourselves or this kind of trauma is separating us. Look at the cat. Is separating us. It often also looks like physical symptoms.
Okay.
Right. And we will, land ourselves in the hospital or the doctor's office and not even make the connection that it's related to your trauma. Unfortunately, a lot of doctors aren't trauma informed. So they'll just throw some medicine at you or, or they'll just, treat the symptoms. When in actuality, it might be the trauma that's broken down your body. And this is one of the things that I experienced because I don't like this is how far I can get my arm up. I got something called frozen shoulder. And
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever had that before.
Mhm.
but that is excruciating. And it literally is like your arm is cementing down. It's like it's stuck right here. So
Oh my
like even
goodness.
when I lift my arm, it's like this isn't moving. It's like
Wow.
that part is like cemented together. I had never heard of it before, but it would keep me up at night because it was so painful.
Yeah.
And you couldn't use it. I remember when it was first starting to happen, I was at one of the girls' volleyball games. And you know how the ball comes at you and you just think, "Oh, I'm gonna catch this and just throw it back." When that ball hit me, it was like an electric shock went through my arm.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, it was so painful. I was like, okay, something is not right here, you know.
Right.
And I realized that was part of my waking up that like, okay, I've got to start paying attention here. Like my body is starting to really suffer from the environment that I'm living in,
Yeah.
and the level of stress that I'm under. I've got to start taking care of me. And, just being reconnected to your body and realizing all those things actually do go together. They work together. And if you're not a good listener, your body will just get even louder and put
Oh,
you put your butt, in the bed when you can't move because you won't listen. you know. And for some
right.
of us, we're just, we're it's hard for us to learn. Sometimes we need more extreme measures to get us to learn things. I might be.
Mm.
So,
Oh.
yeah, so I did want to say that that connection to your mind, body, soul,
Mhm.
all of those things. Trauma is deeply, deeply connected to that. Um, yeah. You have more questions for me, Erin? How far off did I get?
I dropped I dropped my paper. I didn't want to bend down to get
Oh,
it.
you did.
I'm thinking,
This is a judgment-free zone, Erin.
I love it.
You can.
Um, let's see. I feel like
You touch
uh,
this, huh?
I feel like I could ask what if one of our listeners out there is, or many listeners are relating and identifying with what you're saying, and if
Mm.
you could pull any of them right to sit beside you and
Mhm.
say words to encourage them, um, what would you say? What are some things that you could say?
I I would say I see you, and I would say you matter,
Mm,
and your story matters, and your pain matters, and your voice matters, right? Um, and I would say you're worth whatever it takes for you to heal. Don't let anyone take that from you, you know? Start paying attention to what your body might be saying. When you feel that anxiety, let's remember, right, that that is a wounded part of us trying to get our attention. That's an alarm in our body that's trying to say, hey, what about me? Um,
mm,
and if we kind of shift that to with the compassion and the curiosity, and that I'm here and I'm listening, right? Tell me what's going on, like just that, just that shift, right, is on your pathway to healing. Like be gentle with yourself. It's hard
mm.
out here in this world. You know what I'm saying? It's rough out here sometimes.
Yes.
And you're not alone. I do want to say that. That's such a lie that we all tend to believe that we're the only ones going through it, or, that nobody else understands. And what I have found in my journey is everybody's going through something. We
Right.
just might not be talking about it, and sometimes we might be the first ones talking about it. And I don't know if you've experienced that, where sometimes when you open up and share something vulnerably, and then someone down the road is like, oh, me too. But I wasn't going to say anything because I didn't think anybody else experienced that, you know? And so sometimes it might be us that's actually speaking up for the first time. And it, don't be afraid of being that person either. But yeah, and if your Jesus is not the one that is near to you, then that's not Jesus. It's like, because he loves you and he's for you and he fights for you and he's near to the brokenhearted. He cares about your pain. He sees your tears. He cries with you, right? Um, we are never alone because he's always with us. So I hope that would encourage you, and also would encourage you to reach out if you're struggling. Reach out if you're hurting. Reach out if any of these things kind of like resonated with you. We get one life, right? We get one. I want you to live it. I want you to live your life. I want you to heal. I want you to use your voice. I want you to dream because we get one. And you're worth it, you know? So if I got to say something to someone, Erin, that's what I would say. Because I want everybody to know that, regardless of your story, regardless of what you've been through, you can heal and you're worthy of that. And I want that for you.
I love that. And it's never too late. We're
Oh,
never too
never.
old to heal.
No, no, no,
Begin
no,
healing.
no. Never too late. And you think about it, you heal you, and people around you are impacted by that. I was talking about my 4 girls, right? The greatest gift we can give our kids is our own healing. So we can break those cycles and not pass down the pain, right?
Right.
Um, and that's just an added bonus to our healing is people around us get to heal too, or get to experience the healed you. And that's the best gift we can give our kids or our friends or anybody else, right?
Right.
And I guess the other thing I would say is find your people, find support. Don't be alone in it. If there are things that you're dealing with, you can't heal in isolation. We weren't made to do it alone, right?
Right.
Seek help, seek support. You got to have safe people in your corner, help and fight for you. And Erin has been one of those safe people
Mhm.
for me. I mean, especially at the beginning of my journey with all of this. You've been such a blessing to me and continue to be, even though we don't talk very often, but that's never going to change
Right.
who you
Right.
are.
And you've been a safe person for me
I'm
too.
so glad. Yeah,
So it's been back
absolutely.
and forth.
Yeah, and that's a gift. So
It is.
find your people like Erin, right? Find your
Oh,
um yeah,
well, good. Well,
that's
if
what
someone has listened to this and they want to know, where can I find Dawn Bouillon? Where on the interwebs could I connect with her? Where can they find you?
I am, so I'm on Facebook at Dawn Bouillon LPC. That's my business page.
Okay.
I'm on Instagram at embrace.your.brave. Um, and my website is embraceyourbrave.org.
Okay. And I'll have those written out so people can know how to spell everything correctly. Because
Right.
bouillon is a booger to spell.
Bouillon. Yeah, don't forget the I.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'll have that written out.
Okay.
Oh. Well, Dawn, thank you for being with us today. Did you have any last words for this session or this session for this interview.
No, I mean, I did have this little affirmation kind of read out that I can share with your people, but
I would love that.
may you feel the nearness of God in your broken places. May you listen with love to the alarms in your body, and may you know deep in your soul that you are worthy of healing and already on the path to wholeness. That's what I'm over you.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, Erin. This has been a joy and a privilege.
It's been so fun.
Mhm.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed it too. And I will see you next time on Mug to Mug with Erin.